Hey guys, how you doing? I'm doing a review on Kadena today. One of the most interesting projects I've come across. Super innovative and super interesting. So let's jump in. Kadena, scalable blockchain, smarter contracts. Nice little slogan there. First up guys, I'm not a financial advisor in any way, shape or form. I know I may sound like one and even look like one with a chiseled chin, but I'm not one. So yeah, don't take my word for anything. Do your due diligence. Check my research, check my facts. I'm just some random dude posting shots of yoga, surfing, and Team America. Cool. Okay, so summary. Essentially, Kadena are building two protocols, a private chain for enterprises and a public chain for entrepreneurs. They've also built a new smart contract language which is called Pact, and that's super cool too. So first off, why are they building two protocols for private and public? Well, in the private sector, companies and businesses that want a trustless network to interact with partners, if it's a consortium or privately, a lot of them want different features, and also that whole network wouldn't be a mining incentive for the trustlessness, it would actually be a business incentive. So they've had to build a different chain, or they build different chains to suit different clients. And that's really cool to see them actually target that field too, because you can see demand when big companies like Walmart are coming in and using it, and then there's also healthcare companies as well as big banks forming consortiums and using private chains too. Cool. So the features of Kadena's private chain is that it is a proprietary implementation of scalable BFT consensus, and it was evolved from the Juno project when the creators of Kadena were working for JP Morgan and Chase. They were leading that project too. And in comparison to other BFT models, while they provide high performance, they usually suffer centralization and node scalability issues. Projects like Neo come to mind, who only have 13 nodes running their system. So although they have high throughput, they've got major centralization issues, and as you increase the nodes, the performance would obviously go down. So it's really cool to see that Kadena can have a maximum of up to 5 to 10,000 nodes before that linear performance starts to occur. As well as all this, they've got a huge privacy focus where they use key signatures, on-chain encryption, forward secrecy, key rotation, essentially leveraging the latest and greatest encryption tech that Signal and WhatsApp use today. There's more info in their private chain white paper that you can do your own research into and find out why exactly they use those techniques. At the moment as well, guys, they've actually got a use case for it, a real world use case, and it's already achieving up to 8,000 transactions per second with latencies well below 100 milliseconds, and that's at 256 nodes, so that's really cool to see. Okay, so onto their other big innovation is their public chain, Chainweb. It's the first scalable proof of work consensus blockchain that I've come across, and it is a massive innovation because Bitcoin, when it came out, was the first public network, decentralized network that was trustless, and that was the consensus mechanism that actually worked. It did come into issues in terms of scalability, and that's why you can actually see all these other consensus models and blockchains popping up all over the show, introducing things like proof of stake, DPoS, proof of authority, all these other consensus mechanisms that haven't actually been time tested, as well as all these other little issues in between. So that's really cool to see that Kadena are actually using what works and then making it scale. How they actually achieve it is from their structure. So it's kind of like sharding, where there's parallel chains. They actually use graph theory though to form a braided chain-like structure, and you can actually see it in this diagram here, where each line is essentially its own proof of work blockchain, mining its own blocks too. They can all be linked though because they're mining the same cryptocurrency, Kadena's coin, whatever that's going to be announced as being, and then essentially for security, what happens is it will relay the Merkle roots back to the other chains, and so they all back each other up. So instead of a security being tough on one chain to hack, it's super hard to hack because they're all interconnected, and you'd actually have to hack all these chains. What else is really cool about this is that the speed, the security, and the scalability are all interconnected. So as you add more chains, so the scalability is only limited by the number of chains, but you can actually fork it to add more chains. The security would actually go up because there's more chains to hack, and then the production or the throughput would actually increase because each chain is actually producing more blocks. Interesting feature as well, guys, is that the hash difficulty would actually go down as there's more chains being added. So essentially, the energy it takes to mine just stays relatively the same. And this is super cool because the decentralized block production just increases as well. So it holds true to a lot of Satoshi Nakamoto's innovations with Bitcoin. Okay, so currently it's at 8,000 transactions per second with a roadmap for achieving 100,000 transactions per second to their smart contract language Pact. The current issues with smart contracts is that smart contract blockchains are essentially automation with live ammo, e.g. the DAO parity costing millions upon millions of dollars. Developers are not superheroes and often make mistakes. Tests aren't enough. JavaScript requires security add-ons, and Solidity, you can't even change the code. Code is law. So I guess that's why Ethereum has gas, because they could add extra code to limit certain contracts. Okay, so Pact features and how it addresses a lot of these issues. Essentially, Pact is human readable. It's not bytecode or binary code. It can be read by lawyers, businesses, and technicians. So that's really cool because there's no PhDs required to use Pact. They're also upgradable or maintainable. So when a contract is created, you can actually have built-in contract governance where you can actually update the data they hold. They're also interoperable across all chains in Kadena and Chainweb, addressing the ERC20 standard interoperability issue, as well as they have mentioned other chains like Ethereum being interoperable in the future. There's not too much info on that, but that's kind of exciting too. In terms of safety, there's simplicity, there's a standard library for built-in functionality, easy multi-step transactions, and multi-sig built-in. There's also formal verification, which is a really cool system that they're implementing. Essentially, it is using small proofs to model check your code to make sure it's safe prior to release. Often before now, you would actually have to run it by a third party like QuantStamp, or you'd actually have to build the thing and test it out, or just trust that you've gone through it and it's safe. Also, they're actually Turing incomplete, which is essentially taking out the looping or the recursion that Ethereum has on their with their Solidity. So that kind of means less bugs and exploits and a lot more safety, I guess you'd say. So essentially, it's a full suite smart contract language that is focused on security, simplicity, and yet still being powerful. Okay, so team. Kadena's founders have proven experience creating and building software systems for the financial industry and government, including for JP Morgan Chase and US Securities and Exchange Commission, formerly known as the SEC, the ones who are causing a bit of havoc in the crypto ecosystem this year. If you go to their website, guys, you can actually get LinkedIn accounts to all the team members, and you can actually verify what they say and what I say their experience is. I've just written out here for convenience. So Will Martino, who's the co-founder of Kadena, he's the one responsible for the blockchains and their structure and whatnot. He was the lead engineer for the Juno project, which was their BFT blockchain project under JP Morgan for 1.5 years. He was also a senior science advisor at the SEC for 2.3 years, and he studied at Yale and did a Bachelor of Arts of Economics and Mathematics. So he's really well qualified. Stuart Popejoy, he's the one who does more talks on Pact and responsible for that side of things. He's co-founder as well, along with Will. He has experience as the executive director at New Products Division at JP Morgan for 5 years, and he was leading the Juno project there, I believe. He was also head of trading systems for an array of financial service companies for about 9 years. So he's got, quite a bit of experience, relative experience too, I should say. Monica Quantance, she does a lot of talks for Kadena about their consensus mechanism. She is the lead engineer of adoption strategy, I guess that's why. She has experience working for Cushman & Wakefield, a commercial real estate investment bank, as associate there for 3 years. She worked at the SEC for 4 months, and she's previously an opera singer, so that's interesting. Ben Jay, the head of growth at Kadena, he worked at a variety of Big Four consultancies, including Accenture and Deloitte, for a combined experience of 6 years. 3 of their senior software engineers would have lead experience at Microsoft, Northern Grumman, Citi, Lehman Brothers, and whatnot. So I'll just show you on the LinkedIn accounts one of their senior Haskell engineers at Kadena. There you go. He's worked at Citibank for 2 years. This other guy has worked for Microsoft 1.5 and then 2.9 months. So in my opinion, they're really legit. They've got a really solid team in terms of experience, as well as super professional. Like, they've worked for big companies and they know regulation, and they've actually written a lot of white papers and done a lot of talks and writings, basically. So another interesting thing about their media and communications manager is that she was actually a freelance writer for Huffington Post and Princeton Alumni Weekly, among others. Cool. So in terms of roadmap, there isn't a direct roadmap that I can find, but just from AMAs and Telegram, this is the information that I've gathered. The company was created in 2016. Last year, they launched their private chain, which included Pact. They actually beat IBM's Hyperledger in a bake-off for a Fortune 100 healthcare company that uses Kadena today. And I believe that they're a paying customer of Kadena, and they have formed a consortium. So I got this picture here today. They are trying to solve the $2.1 billion problem in the healthcare industry. Blockchain-based marketplace for trading data, and client forms consortium to take solution to the market. So that's pretty cool to see. They've actually also, I believe they're in talks or channel partnerships being finalised with pilots in insurance market, as well as discussion in a whole bunch of other markets and sectors like telecom, transport, finance, energy, supply chain and whatnot, but they haven't released that yet. So this year their focus is more on the public Chainweb, with some massive Pact updates like formal verification, which they've actually already open sourced. Chainweb testnet launches in September, so 2 months away, and then the mainnet is set to launch at the end of this year, and I think from what I've found, the ICO is to coincide with that time. Next year and onwards, their focus is on private adoption and onboarding more businesses. Okay, so community. Their community is still really small because there's limited info about the ICO. Their Telegram group only has 10,500 people, and it's limited to tech talks, no speculation. They only have 2,000 people on Twitter, 100 people on Facebook. There's no hype, not much awareness, still really early days, which can be a really good thing for us if we do our research early. In terms of investors, they all took part in about 3 private rounds, and all under the SAFT framework, which means that they bought in for tokens at a future date. There's super notable VC funds in and out of the blockchain space, like Metastable, which is Naval Ravikant's blockchain VC fund. If you don't know him, I highly suggest researching him. He is an incredible contemporary thinker. CoinFund partnered with Venrock recently, which is the Rockefeller VC fund, so they're backing CoinFund, who is backing Kadena. Devonshire Investors, that is the private investment arm of the owners of Fidelity Investments, which is the 4th largest asset manager in the world with $2.4 trillion in assets. Previous investments include IBM, Alibaba, Cisco, Zoom, whatever, just some big names. Multicoin Capital, Kilowatt Capital, as well as SIG, Asimov Investments, SVG Angel, and Passport Capital. The overview. They're building 2 protocols, one for private and public, addressing issues with both, and fundamentally they are different, which is cool that they're targeting that. There's definitely a need and use case of both. New smart contract language, Pact, which I've already covered, covers a lot of issues with the current smart contract languages like Solidity. The idea is great, it's super innovative. There's no other project that addresses scalability in a proof of work consensus model. So that's huge in my opinion. The utility, it's essentially a base layer of value, so any applications being built on top will just accrue more value to the actual protocol layer and hopefully the token. Team is all-star, they're super professional, they've written 5 white papers, they've got regulatory experience as well as blockchain experience too. The competitors would be scalable blockchains and smart contract blockchains like Zilliqa, Ether, a whole list of other ones, but it's interesting to note that they're all pretty big market caps. Their roadmap, the testnet releases in about a month or two, the public release is 6 months, and the ICO is mentioned to be coinciding with the public release or the mainnet release. So Q4, maybe Q1 next year. The community is still really small. Obviously there's no token metrics and that's hindering a lot of awareness. All that we know is that the private sales raised about $12 million. The rates and bonuses were not disclosed. They were under a SAFT framework, which is good for us if we ever get to the ICO. And that's it, guys. So I hope you like it. Ask a question, jump on their Telegram group. It's actually super informative. But yeah, really cool project, and I reckon we'll be hearing a lot more about it.